desert
Yeah.
type stuff, all that on the
Yeah.
south end.
Yeah.
You get up the top and it's that desert stuff.
Yeah.
And as soon as you drop over the top,
It's all
it's green timber.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's good. Yep.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Eagle Mountain City Planning Commission work session for June 24th, 2025. The time is 5:32. We'll go ahead and get started. We've got one item on our work session agenda here today. We're going to go over the future land use map.
Yeah,
Over to you, Brandon. Thanks.
sounds great. We get that screen pulled up on for the podium. I think it should be, there we go. Awesome. So this is, just hold on. This is in flux quite a bit. There's so much. I'm going to take you on a little journey. That's honestly what I plan to do today, is just kind of take you on the journey we've been on the last week or two, and it's going to continue to be a journey. So I'm just going to kind of show you this. This is the map we took to the council last week, and so I'll get it a little bigger here so you can. I'll show you the north and the south side. So you'll notice we're including those parcels that are in our current annexation area. This is open space. We typically we've used gray for the industrial areas. Yellow's usually residential, and that's what we used here. Reds are our commercial. Purple's kind of a mixed use, and then you've got your reds are, like I said, commercial. Blue is institutional. Oranges and browns are also just another residential. So the kind of the south side of the future land use map. So you can see the west side. Steve and I realized that we probably need to start focusing on rather than just north and south, we probably need to start. Firefly is going to get so big that we're going to really have three big segments of the city we're going to have to start focusing on. So, but this is what we took to the council, and so I'm going to share with you briefly what was shared with. I'm going to touch on some of this that was shared with the council, but there's so much of it, and I need time to kind of show you where we're at right now and get some. Frankly, I'm here to counsel with you to kind of see what you guys suggest for this, because there's a lot of uncertainty. Let me go back to one thing really quick, just as kind of just to kind of tee this up for you, an idea to be thinking on. And so we had been thinking, as we've talked with Economic Development Director Evan, and just kind of thinking through things, he had studied out flight paths and just a good location for an airport. We of course have this, but the existing Cedar Valley Airport, but it's typically been being used by hyper light planes and things like that. So it hasn't really been used for much aviation. It's private. We were planning on suggesting having an airport here, but there's been some things going on behind the scenes that may make it more desirable to indeed try to build up the airport here, and more on that will probably come out in the future, hopefully very near future. But you can see we went and designated it as commercial and just don't worry about that airport anymore. But anyway, so be thinking of that. That's one big hole we've got, unknown. Like, well, is the airport really going to go here? Then we need to change all of this. If that's not going to work out, we probably should if we're really gonna have 150, 175, 200,000 people out here, we really need to be planning for a regional airport, and not just traditional air traffic, but I mean the aerial transportation with that you guys have probably seen a little bit about, flying cars, stuff like that. I can't think of the right word. Vertical takeoff type stuff. We'll need we'll need to plan for takeoff pads for drones and things like that. So that is something that will definitely be an important discussion point, but we are not, we are still waiting for additional information on that issue. So I'm going to share a bit of this with you from our consultant GSBS. And this is just kind of laying out a little bit about, we went to the council last week, and we're going to go at least 2 more times to the council. We were going to go next week, but after going to them last week, we're going to go on the 15th and then probably August, first part of August to meet with them again. So the first 2 meetings with the council was supposed to, introduce the map to them along with the land use designations, and there's language, and you've seen the language for the land use designations. You saw before they did, and but anyway, they got their first look at it last week. So that first 1 or 2 first 2 meetings was to introduce the map, show them the land use designations, and then go back after they had more comments and just kind of keep refining the process through the first 2 meetings, and then hopefully go back to the 3rd meeting for adoption. So going through this process with GSBS and us as staff, we've noticed these 5 themes as we've talked with the city council, with you, also with our focus groups. These are themes that seem to be most salient in preparing the land use, the future land use map. Balance of uses, creating destination areas. I know that Councilman Wrights talked about wanting to build that up, especially kind of by the area where the Mid-Valley Road would kind of cut through the mountains. Housing and access to services. Obviously, housing's just, there's not a bigger issue for the city, right? Well, housing, water, and energy, those are all, they're all massive, but housing is a huge issue, affordability especially. And then, of course, we place a premium on our open space, and so that's, we've heard that loud and clear from everybody we've talked to. And then just trying to put it all together, making it kind of all mesh together. So some key things that we found is, as we've kind of gone through these focus groups and talking with you again, greater focus on the parks, creating a destination areas, and I guess the one we, improving traffic flow, that's the thing we kept hearing from the residents over and over when we'd meet with them in public settings and when we did our survey with them. So of course the map that I just showed you certainly isn't final, and it's going to change. In fact, we already have some additional maps, and we're going to have another version or 2 on Monday. So we were just on the phone with our consultant just a couple of hours ago asking for an even additional alternative maps to consider. So yeah, we just are at this point are looking for feedback. The colors on the maps aren't, they're not finalized, and we're just at this point just really trying to just kind of refine it and work through it and see what people think. So one of the things I struggle with in looking at these maps is trying, and even in showing it to you, is the legend. The legend, I wish there was a way to make it pop up have a pop-up so it always be visible, but when I show it to you, it's like you can't see it, so, unless I scroll down to it, but there's your land use designations, and so, so we've generally tried to hold to the same land use designation, or neighborhood land, or residential designations. And generally same with parks. We did initially get rid of we have an education and campus designation that's not here anymore, so that may be coming back, I think, and I'll explain that here in a minute, but you can see we've kind of refined it. We don't have a neighborhood commercial I'm trying to remember if we even had a neighborhood, but anyway, we've got two main commercial designations and then this mixed use designation. So that is, got that, and now I'm gonna pull this back open. So I don't know if I'll dive a ton into this, but this was an area that I think was one of the hardest areas for us to decide what to do with. I mean, obviously, you can tell by the big land areas of those designations. It was hard back in 2018, and I'm still questioning whether or not we have enough information to really dial that down as much. I mean, the infrastructure's not there. I don't know if we've been given signals we give signals to the development community, but also we receive those signals too. And I don't know that, after kind of going through the meeting with the council last week, I'm still questioning whether we have the proper signals to really dial into that area. And so that's given a kind of a foreshadowing of what happened at the council. So,
Hey, Brandon, are you talking specifically about the red area is the area that in focus that you're trying to figure out what?
Just this whole area along Eagle Mountain Boulevard, there's no, other than the IHC property, we certainly have a property owner who's kind of given us some indications, but other than that, there's no MDAs through that area. I don't know that, I'm not aware of us having a lot of people coming to talk to us about development opportunities or throwing out ideas. The only entity I'm aware of is IHC. So it's kind of a little bit of a challenge. So it gave me pause. It's certainly given staff pause. It gave me more pause after meeting with the council. They got to the point in that meeting where they really felt like it might be best to just keep it in agriculture and wait for more information so we can dial it down. And honestly, in that part of the city, I don't know that that's a bad idea. I just don't know that there's enough information available, especially when the utilities aren't there. I don't know that there's enough information for us. We're looking into a crystal ball, a really murky crystal ball, and whereas that's not the case for a lot of areas, most of the other areas of the city. This one was a little challenging. So,
but it seems like the historical approach for the city is anything that's agriculture is really up for grabs.
Yes.
And I would think that along the highway, there's a couple of uses that you would likely prefer more than others.
Yeah.
More, in my mind, since you're adjacent to a main artery,
yeah,
or adjacent to the highway, you would tend to see more business, more manufacturing, more so than multifamily, more than that. That doesn't mean it can't be there.
Right.
But in my mind, anywhere where we have a arterial road, a highway, those commercial business, those should be the first buffer off of that to some extent. And then obviously residential can come in in my opinion, near that, but,
Yeah.
but, I mean, think of, do we want, I mean, if you leave it agriculture, and it's up for grabs by the next developer who comes in or the applicant, which is just part of the process, will we want multifamily housing there? I would say there are certain things that we, as a city, we would not want. There's more that we would, but if that's the case, then maybe we push it to one direction, whether it's commercial, business, industrial versus residential.
Yeah.
But maybe there's just a buffer along the highway.
Yeah, maybe,
You know, maybe
yeah.
it's, imagine the city does eventually push an airport out that direction. Obviously, industrial, manufacturing, think of everything that's up by the airport now, of course, much grander scale.
Right,
Those services, those types of uses are all more compatible than the first, because once residential comes in, then it's like, you know, you're kind of like stuck with it a little bit. So even though you don't want to look at the whole area, I would say any arterial road collector really should be buffered first by business, to some extent commercial, you know, and even manufacturing to some extent. Maybe that's more specific use at a particular location, you know, and maybe it's just a narrow, you know, maybe it's just a small strip around that, and then from there, it could stay agriculture.
yeah.
But just, you know, land planning, and in 20 years, what would we not want to have there?
Yeah, and I think
Right.
One of the things that we haven't been able to show you yet, and it's coming, is this future land use map's not gonna be just like the one we've had in the past. It's gonna come with some additional pages to it with, the consultant calls them storyboards. And it's going to take each one of the land uses and kind of set them up graphically to kind of show what we want with them. And I think there's probably some opportunity in those storyboards to kind of like talk through some of that. One of the things we talked about today, we had a phone call even within a couple of hours ago with our consultant, because this thing's just, it's just so rapidly evolving and changing right now. But one of the things we talked about is having ag predominantly through this area, but also maybe even putting an asterisk, kind of in the same vein as you, like maybe industrial, maybe it's commercial, something like commercial's a possibility, or industrial. Anyway, just to kind of, and we also know that, and I'll get to this in just a minute, but ag, I think the council likes having ag. That's what if you remember we're getting close to almost a year now, but we did all those EMP rezones. The council ended up rezoning almost everything that wasn't commercial. They just put it into ag. And it kind of, to me, that seems like they're sending a signal. It's like, hey, we want the opportunity to have the property owner come give us an application, and then we get a chance to tell you whether or not it's, give us a concept. And but then we're kind of being reactionary.
Yeah,
So that's
the
a
counter
challenge.
argument to that is you're just not making a decision,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And there's two schools of thought out there, and both of them are totally fine. But
Yeah.
if the fact is, if we keep it in ag, knowing that we're open,
Yeah.
but then how much control do you have when somebody says, well, we want to do these things? Are we going to
Yeah.
look at it in context of how does that proposed use within an ag zone now fit with other stuff that we don't know is there?
Yeah.
Obviously, the more difficult decision and the more planning decision is to say, no, we can still leave a lot of things ag, but at particular locations, we want that to be commercial.
Yeah.
Down the road, we know that's where we want it, you know? And of course, and I'm sure that obviously the future land use plan is doing that now, but anyway, just two schools of thought that, you know, whoever's making that decision is more than fair to make that decision. But, you know, I think in the name of long-term planning for the city, there is, in my opinion, a direct benefit by us saying, we can leave some, but at critical areas, we need to control what we expect to occur.
So, those are good
In
thoughts.
some regard, maybe it's not the whole area, but maybe it's just, you know, along those transportation corridors.
Right.
Along critical intersections,
Yeah.
you know, but anyway.
Maybe that's something we do, is leave smaller, you know, commercial designations at major intersections. I've got some maps, some additional maps that's like just gonna, anyway, it's really gonna take that whole ag idea to the extreme. Let's put it that way. So, like I said, this is a wild ride, so, but you can see from here kind of what staff was thinking originally with this. Of course, like we've got, you know, we've got Aviator, and we've got the Mid-Valley Road, and that, I guess, I'm still trying to figure that out. There is such a thing as the East Valley, East Expressway? There needs, so there's, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it this one that comes down this way and, okay. So, but you can see on the major roads, you know, you've got Aviator, Mid-Valley, and then the East Valley Expressway. They're all, we put lots of commercial and industrial business park type uses along that. We did put a little bit of, neighborhood residential 2 and some 3 right there, but the predominantly it's commercial and industrial type uses, office uses. But again, this isn't how it's going to end up. So, and then this was kind of our first shot at it, and we've only got. I could probably go on for a couple of hours on this tonight, but.
Can I ask you a question, just
Yeah.
kind of on the process? So I know you mentioned looking at traffic. So in each of these scenarios, are the consultants running like traffic projections to see how this would affect it? Because obviously, like if we're keeping light industry up there, that's gonna be different than if we filled it in with multifamily.
It's a
right?
good thought. I don't think we have been running projections, but I will say at the same time that we've been doing this, you got the TMP that's been going on at
Yeah.
the same time.
Because that might be a good criteria as we're trying to figure out. I mean, we're balancing economic development, we're
Yeah.
balancing infrastructure, like traffic. So that could help as we're trying to figure out what do we want to do. Yes, leaving ag is nice, but I agree with Commissioner Hess. Maybe we need to say, this is the best case of what we're looking for. Let's make sure we note that somewhere.
Yeah, thank you for that thought. I mean, because I'll tell you that water has been a big emphasis in reviewing our land designations, and I think you're right. I think it's a good comment, because I feel like in a lot of ways maybe we have been siloing those two things a little bit. So the TMP, it's coming to the finish line, maybe approved next week, and so it gives us time to look at some of those things. But that's a great comment. Let's see if there's anything more we want to say on this. We've talked about the airport. Don't need to get into that because we're still waiting to see where that goes. Of course, the west side of the area. This is an area where we know there's going to be tons of housing, but also we need some services. So we had originally put quite a bit of commercial. We needed another commercial area, so we were putting that by the new freeway, to line it up by freeway interchanges and things like that. So, and then this is down on the south end. Still some question on whether this is too large or not. I don't know that it is. It'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to say, what the commission has to say, because I mean, Google still owns property. We know that we've got potentially 4 data centers, and once we figure out our energy thing, there's going to be way more opportunities. And frankly, we've got Inyo down there who has a ton of land. I just don't know that we really have too much. This is how we did it. This is how we ended up coming up with, this is what we came up with. We generally kept it the same, but you can see that we went with a little bit of business park and then the industrial. Council, as one of the comments we got from council, they want us to maybe come up with 2 different industrial designations and kind of clarify that a little bit better, because that was one comment from them. But as far as like the language of the land use designations, I think there's a lot of vagueness there, so.
Do we know what Fairfield's planning along that area? Have we been talking with them, or we just kind of?
So far, we haven't, but that's, but I will say that GSBS, our consultant, is doing their general plan map. So, and we will, Mayor McKinney knows that this is going on, so we will continue to work with, to review their plan. And we do have the added benefit of GSBS. They did Saratoga's, they did ours, and they're doing Fairfield, so. So, and talked about that. I guess with this area right up here, the one thing I'll say, so this is kind of the before. You've got your open space, and then I think this is campus, and then probably some industrial or business park light industrial. And so what we ended up coming up with was just making it more industrial. That's where we got into this discussion with the council about the ambiguity of the industrial designation. And so we're going to be working on clarifying that and probably having 2 different designations. And as you know, or as you see here, we kept the northern, wherever up here in the A Cub or Camp Williams area, we just kept it open space. So what I will say after that discussion, we think that likely what we're going to, an alternative we're going to propose is probably more agriculture up in this area because of the same issues down here, but keeping some strips of industrial right along the highway, right along the freeway or highway right there. That has been brought up several times as we've discussed that area as a potentially good area. Now, whether, and I'm trying to remember, Beth, do you remember, did Councilman Woods, did he say light industrial or, because I'm thinking he was kind of talking more light industrial along that area? I can't.
Yeah, they were concerned with, he wants certain industrial uses, and that was one of the things they wanted to clarify and define, because they didn't want data centers or certain things there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. No data centers up there. So I think lighter industrial, probably, I mean, up against the main road like that, we want it to be attractive, and it's frankly, it'll be a gateway into the city, so we want it to look nice. How long it remains a gateway, we don't know, but then of course we've got the gateway over to the east, and we have a current MDA that that was approved, that informed kind of some of our thoughts. We've got the RCA group that has come into you to talk to you about putting in some development, some commercial development through this area, and of course the Walmart was here. We know that you've got a couple of gravel pit operations here, one that should be winding down fairly soon and one that's going to keep going for a number of years. But so MDA showed a lot of, some industrial and business park. It was a little heavier. I mean, maybe we're considering that, maybe being influenced a little bit about what's already on Mount Airy Drive, perhaps. But this is what we came up with. We know that we're working with a couple of property owners through here to try to make a connection so that we can get into Wildflower and make another connection with Saratoga right there. We know that Walmart's right there, and we know that there's been plenty of commercial interest right in this area. So the other thing too is right over in here, Saratoga's got another big regional commercial area, and I did look at their plans, and they've got a lot. Wasn't that just recently approved, Beth?
The Wildflower?
Not Wildflower, but that development that's down on 73. Remember we got the PowerPoint from Tippy, the planner.
Yeah, that was like less than a month ago.
Yeah,
last month or
so not too long ago, they were showing plans for a large regional commercial development right there. So we also wanted to add more regional commercial in this area and try to steal back some of what Saratoga's been taking from us for years. So,
So quick question on
Yeah.
that one. So if I remember right, over there in the Mount Airy neighborhood, there
Yeah.
is that parcel that is designated for community commercial, if I remember. It's
Uh-huh.
surrounded by houses and it's just gone vacant forever because there's no one that wants it.
yeah,
And it seems like having this much commercial on the north side of SR 73 would eliminate the need for that community commercial sitting right in that neighborhood.
yeah.
So we might, yeah, something like that. It just seems like that designation, that general plan should change for that piece to something.
And that's what we
Else.
proposed. If you
Is that
see
in there?
Yeah, see right there, we changed it to, we proposed neighborhood 2.
Okay.
I guess it's 2 there. Because that would line up, we just know that the applicant's been asking for that to be rezoned, and so we thought, it makes more, we've got opportunities on the other side of the road is what we were thinking, so, and probably better situated land, so, so that was what we proposed. We thought it was good. We had some industrial commercial. This was, or not industrial, light industrial up here and some business park. That kind of lines up. Again, we got rid of the education land use designation, and so business park is where you'd see those kind of educational tech campus kind of things.
So would a business park also be office buildings?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because I didn't quite get that when I was looking through the designation descriptions, but, okay, because this would be a really ideal spot. If an office
Yeah.
building were to come into Eagle Mountain anywhere, that's our best chances as far east as possible.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what we're looking for right there. And then that light industrial up top, that is kind of, we felt okay about it. It's kind of a carryover from that MDA that got approved. So, but anyway, that's what we came up with, trying to balance all the documents and all the approvals that we had seen. I don't know if you've seen all the designations. I don't want to spend a lot of time with that because I want to get into some other things, but you know, you've seen I don't know that there's much change on the open space. We've got 2 designations on improved and improved. Rodeo grounds would be an improved open space option. We're working right now trying to try to get some concepts for moving the rodeo grounds over more by Wasatch Wing and Clay. So. Then one of the things that, I don't know if, we looked at a number of other cities' future land use maps. One of the things we liked from this was, this is from a city in Indiana, and they coordinated these greenway belts through their city. The city would go and fill in between like, the HOAs, so it's kind of a public-private kind of partnership there. If you, I don't know that it was, anyway, I think the city was feeding from the clues of the private sector and just kind of started filling in, and it made some really nice bands of green space through the city, and so that's kind of some of what we tried to, well, actually, let me go back. This is a better way to show you is right here. So there is some of that. You can see we've got this is the wildlife corridor, but you can see these other green areas through the city, like the Fairfield Road there, or the Lehigh Fairfield Road, and along the utility corridor through here. That's what that designation was on, that I just had, the trail connector designation that I showed you. So, and then regional commercials, pretty much the way it was before, big box stores, regionally, things that are gonna have a regional draw. And community commercial, we know that we have 3 commercial zones, standard commercial zones. You got the, I always get these mixed up, the commercial community, the regional commercial, and anyway, because we named them names that are close, I can't ever keep them straight, so. Right, yeah, commercial, regional, commercial neighbor, yeah. They're opposite, yeah, flipping, yep. So neighborhood commercial and commercial community would, or commercial community and neighborhood commercial, I can't keep them straight. Anyway, they all fit into this land use designation. Business park, this is your research and development, flex office space, warehousing. This is also, we line this up with, and you're right, we aren't saying office space, but this is where office would go. We need to.
Yeah, that's where my confusion was. So it would be helpful to add that in there.
Yeah, we will definitely add that, but that's the idea. In fact, Rob, do you remember, we have an office space zone, and yet we don't have it as, yet it's included in the business park collection, right? Am I wrong on that? Yeah, okay. So I think that's the plan, is to carry it over. We need to define that better, like you said, Commissioner Whiting. We'll make sure to add that. Light industrial, that's, I think, pretty self-explanatory, but this, what we were thinking here was, you know, your energies, your energy uses, and things like that. I think your data centers would go in this area. So, and that's, as you recall from the map I showed you there, the data centers were in that light industrial designation. Institutional was to get like medical campus, the schools and so forth. And that's, let me take you back. This is probably good. I just was reminded of something, and probably a timely comment here. So one thing with this idea of just going all ag through here, one thing we were going to add, we were going to propose all ag through here, and then do another map that proposed, the council started talking about this bubble idea, and you've got medical campus, education, and was it tech or what? Education. We had 3 different types of bubbles. It was medical, education. I can't remember the third one right now. It'll come to me in a second, but we were gonna put some bubbles through this area, loose, you know, designations to show that, to give that kind of signal, Commissioner Hess, that we want educational facilities in this area, we want medical facilities, and so tech campus stuff, not like data center, but higher, nicer looking
So
stuff.
couldn't you accomplish the same thing by just doing a special type of thatching over a broad area and say, within this thatching, we're looking for these various uses?
Yeah.
I don't know if you need the bubbles necessarily, because bubbles will still put some kind of a geographic marker, whereas you could just take a wide swath over there, do a certain kind of thatching, and in that thatching say, here's what we're looking for in this area. And then you can put a whole list of those.
Yeah, and that's a possibility. You like crosshatch the area and just say,
Some
hey,
kind
in
of
this
special-
area, we're looking for these uses.
Yeah.
We're
yeah.
open to these types of.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still, you just put it as agricultural.
Yeah.
Just so that it's sort of like vanilla.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And then you just put that thatching over the top of it.
Yeah.
And say, this is what we're looking for in these areas. And then that signals the development community, come, here's where we want this kind of stuff. But because we don't, whoever comes in.
Yeah.
Like if an educational facility comes in that's bigger.
Yeah.
We don't know how much space they'll need. And
Exactly.
And we need to make the plan, I think, flexible enough. We're just sort of setting aside an area, but it's got to be flexible enough to accommodate. And so I think you just do it that way.
I think it's a good
Without
idea.
without
and
getting
that
too,
goes-
I don't think we should get too granular, because I think it's impossible to guess
Yeah.
who will come in and what the city will say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But then it still gives us the flexibility of turning people away, because it's not zoned
Yeah.
something.
I think that's a really good idea, and it goes along with what you were saying too. I think we, go agricultural and then identify a list of uses. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Beth, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it was employment, medical, and education.
That's what it was. It was employment. It was employment. But honestly, I kind of like I think I like that idea better than the bubbles too. Anyway, the bubbles came out. It wasn't my idea. And so I like that idea better.
And I just ran into a bubble issue on some land in Bountiful that I'm representing a developer on, and
Yeah.
it made it unclear and difficult. Anyway, I
Right.
just didn't like the bubble idea.
No, I like that. That makes sense to me. I think it's a good
We've
idea.
used the bubble idea, and many times it just didn't develop that way.
Yeah,
What it boiled down to is you just have to keep your eyes on how things are developing in the area.
yeah. See, I just don't think we have enough information there yet to really pin down land uses that's really gonna be super helpful. But identifying uses that we want in that area, that's the right kind of, those are the signals we do want. And I think that's great. Yep, that's a great idea. Let me see if there's not much more on this, and I wanted to have some time to show you a couple of other things. So, institutional neighborhood nodes. So this neighborhood nodes, you noticed, neighborhood nodes, it's kind of a mixed use animal is what it is. You're trying to build up give some sense of place to some areas and go for some mixed use in an area, give it its own distinct character. And so you're looking at retail and sit-down restaurants, boutique hotels, things like that, cottage retail. But the council didn't like that very much. But let me show you where, it's actually just better to show you. Council didn't like it, so I don't know that it's coming back. Anyway, you can give us your thoughts love your thoughts on it, but the council was not crazy about it. And so that's what you're seeing right here. That's what you saw. That's what this hatching is right here. All these areas. And I mean, I kind of like the idea behind it. It's like we're signaling that, like, hey, we want some unique neighborhood identities in these areas and perhaps some mixed use or something. So the council didn't like that. The council's been very, and Beth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I still feel like a lot of resistance from members of the council on mixed use. It's just still not being, I would say, not super well received yet.
Well, I think it's more, there's not a strong consensus. They kind of
Yeah,
I-
there's
it
some strong
depends.
pushback on.
on different ways, like, they don't agree on one form and vision for mixed use. I guess we haven't come to one that everybody can agree upon in some way.
Right.
Well, I think, again, it needs to be flexible, where you just sort of designate areas where you're open to proposals. So here's where I've seen cities fail in mixed use, is where they require, where the zoning is mixed use.
Yeah.
It's really difficult for a developer to hit that.
Yeah.
Now, but if a developer comes and says, I want to do mixed use, that's different. And the reason why it's hard to hit a mixed use is because most developers are either residential or commercial, and it's hard to find those that are skilled enough to do both.
Yeah,
And so that's why I don't like the mixed use zone. I don't like that as a zone, but I have no problem with it as a, like, sort of a designated area where we're saying, hey, developer, if you have an interesting idea, I think the city should be open to reviewing those. I have no problem with that, but I like it more as like instead of like an actual zone, something like this where it's, hey, we're open to ideas in this area.
yeah, and I mean, maybe if we couch it that way, maybe there's still some hope for that, because I do kind of like the idea of like designating some unique neighborhoods in the city. I think it's good.
Well, that's what you essentially have at Ridley's.
Yeah,
You know, you've two zones that are side by side, and the node that you're mentioning, and that kind of goes along with what Commissioner Whiting said, is maybe it's not a particular zone, but it's a preference of different uses that could be allowed in the same area.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it's just Ridley was zone commercial, and behind it is residential, and
Yeah.
it's mixed. It's not mixed vertically, but it's adjacent.
right.
And adjacent is, you know, just as valuable as anything else. I mean, if we can't get around our heads of understanding how we can mix it completely vertically and adjacent, then let's just say, hey, there's no reason we can't have, I mean, that's what's gonna happen to Macy's. I'm guessing there's
Right.
multifamily going in behind Macy's, that's zoned residential. So essentially, we're doing it, but maybe instead of having two zones side by side, we just say, hey, within this node, maybe that's a neighborhood node, so it's a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So maybe there's not some type of business, but maybe there's a community node, like Commissioner Whiting is saying, was like, let's take a step back here, we want more, a wider range of potential uses at this particular location that
Yeah.
could serve these different uses, and they would include business and, you know, educational, institutional, or something like that, but.
Yeah.
I think we're sort of doing it, but I think you're probably getting stuck in the mud a little bit with semantics, you know,
That's
but,
probably true.
you know, and that's just the challenge, right? If you designate a 500-acre tract of land, not necessarily as one zone, and you made your decision.
Truly, the way I saw mixed use work is mixed use says you can have residential, you can have commercial, you can have all those in the same zone. And then it develops as
Yeah.
the need is there.
More organically, I guess, yeah.
So it's not saying that, you know, one piece of it has to be residential, one has to be, it's that it can intermix because it is mixed use.
Yeah,
And it
That's-
just blends in residential with commercial.
Yeah, the issue I'm running into Bountiful is it requires 25% commercial. And at that point, it's really
Now-
difficult and
Yeah.
inflexible, but I like this other idea where you signal developers like, look, we'll look at a residential or commercial use at this
Yeah,
location.
That's exactly.
And you could even do an overlay, like you could even just, if the council doesn't like a specific zone, we'll have a mixed use overlay, which signals, hey, maybe there's some flexibility here.
yeah. The council has been, I think, shared some of the same concerns that you've had, and has shown a preference to want to use tools in those scenarios that will help offer flexibility, I guess, so.
Brandon?
Yeah,
One other thing that they did talk about, especially with those highly desired uses like medical campuses and things, of kind of putting in there that we would allow secondary uses, like residential and different things, that yes, you can have some residential if it's supporting something else. So it's not a true mixed use per
Right.
se, but then it does bring in those different uses together.
yeah. It's, and then there's the town center designation. I don't know, this one kind of, I don't remember this one getting a lot of, what would I say? I do remember one commissioner suggesting they may not like the town center designation, but again, this is for our downtown area, so we'll continue to look at that, but that's all it's not for other areas of the city, it's for the downtown area, so, but Foothill Residential, these are all generally the same.
Can I ask a real question
Yeah.
on the Foothill Residential? Because it's like, the minimum lot size is a quarter with, I think, the average having to be a half. But I'm not sure how we're fitting product types that include, duplexes. Because that wouldn't be congruent with, in cottage court.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be congruent with the definition above.
Right, yeah, and that's, I think one of the big things that we've talked about is this idea of sprinkling, and I think that's kind of some of what that is. I think this is gonna be developed further. I don't wanna dive. I think that generally the idea is the council's, loves the idea of single-family homes and sprinkling in some of these other types. And so I think that's generally where we're trying to steer things, and it'll be sprinkled and not heavy. So, but these slides have some mistakes in them, and so they're generally the same with like rural residential 2, ADU, single-family ADUs. Neighborhood residential 2's got some mansion homes and kind of opens it up a little bit more for, I guess, a few more things like triplexes, fourplexes. So we are, and again, it's not the idea to try to get we don't want big areas of fourplexes or big areas of townhomes. We want to mix it, sprinkle it.
So along that line, so like on the that future land use map, the proposed one, I mean, there will be like, for instance, a big block of neighborhood residential 3. And that was one of my comments I was gonna make, is I'm just concerned that you're gonna get that sea of 400 townhomes all in one spot.
Right.
As opposed to sprinkled. So I don't know if there's a different way to manage, and going back to more like a general just like residential, but the expectation is that there's gonna be a sprinkling that happens throughout this, because I would prefer to just take that, that block and somehow blend it through, the city, as opposed to say, okay, right here, we're gonna have 400 units of whatever.
Right.
Apartments or something. So I don't know if there's a way to accomplish that differently by just saying, hey, this is these are areas that are designated for residential, however, the council's gonna look at these, because there's gonna be rezones, zoning they're gonna have to go through a rezone, so the council can sort of be the gateway for everything, and give some kind of expectation to developers that that, I don't know, maybe we don't put a specific neighborhood residential 3, and if we do, maybe have it be a smaller section of like really a thin bandwidth or a little small box. Otherwise, we could say, hey, look, if there's a big residential area, there would be an expectation perhaps of having some of the neighborhood residential 3, 2, and 1 sort of all connected in a larger development.
Sure. Yep. That hear you there. One thing, because we've only got a couple of minutes, what ended up happening is the council, I'd almost say we kind of got a little bit of mixed signals, but there was one big signal, but some other mixed signals. What ended up happening is they ended up saying they generally preferred just everything that wasn't, just put it all in ag, everything that wasn't built MDA, and so that's what we proposed, and I don't think you're planning at this point. You're not sending any signals to the development community.
Can you
now.
turn your microphone on, please?
So, so today I've been talking with, let me show you this too. So this is showing this shows the MDAs. That's what the hatched areas are. So obviously this map has flaws. We just barely got it. We haven't really, and I don't know that we're gonna spend our time developing this further. I'm gonna take this back to some members of the council and show them. What I'm thinking of doing is probably trying to show them, suggest again, maybe this is an area where maybe we consider some, maybe go ag here and ag in this area, still do open space. But I really like that hatching area, but we really think we should probably go back to something similar to what we originally brought, do something more like this, and then add some of that ag through through this area, and then maybe we were thinking a little bit down on this, down in this area. So that is, that's kind of where we're at. I'm hoping to get another map or two from the council, hoping to be able to meet with some members of the council here soon and kind of show them some other things. We got signals like, hey, let's do what we showed you here, but we also got feedback. Some members said, okay, if we're gonna do ag, then I wanna do, if you're gonna do this whole ag thing, I still want some bubbles to, I think it was generally the idea of, we still wanna send some signals to the development community. So I think that's what kind of some of the comments we got. Then we got Commissioner Wright made a couple of comments where he said, we're open to suggestions, and he said, yeah, we'll do ag, except where it makes sense that we want to send signals, or we've got, and I think that makes sense. And so that's why I think we are going to come back to the council and say, here's some areas where maybe we can do some agriculture, still sending some signals, as you all suggested, with thatching or cross hatching or whatever. Maybe in this area, and maybe mainly in the northwest and the southeast areas, where I think there's still a lot of question marks.
Well, I would suggest it around the airport as well, because the airport's still a question mark.
Yeah.
And so I think you put the ag there as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're not gonna get into the airport discussion, but you probably gotta do that for the time being.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some things that have to happen. You can't just scrape the airport without the owner's permission. And so
Yeah.
if he chooses to keep it there, then we gotta, anyway, I think we have to keep the future land use map flexible until we have a better
Yeah.
understanding from the airport owner as to how that should go forward.
There are some discussions about that airport that if they materialize, then it might give some clarity to the situation, hopefully before the map's done, but if not, then we could go ahead and, we could do that. I mean, we want to, flexibility is a big key for this. That's what I tried to do with the last future land use map I did, was tried to add. And every city's kind of different. In Provo, I made the edges of the land use designations kind of rounded a little bit for commercial and industrial, so that it would give the council some flexibility if they wanted to move if they wanted to move the commercial into the next block a little bit, they could. I mean, it was just kind of, okay, you can move it a couple 100 feet that way if you want to, type of thing. So, but anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Beth, is there anything else you feel like you want to communicate with them? This is where we're at. I would hope to have brought some more, something a little more finished, but this is just such a fluid process right now. We'll be back and let you know, give you an update, so. But I will say that we are going back to the council on July 15th to talk with them, and we should have, we'll have that additional map that's kind of a, more like this map, but kind of a hybrid of the ag and this, but probably more, kind of more for traditional future land use maps, so.
Perfect. Yeah, and I just add my final comment down there. I think it's important to have at least some designation, of course, because like here in your staff report, the background, it represents the long-term vision for land use patterns, serves as a guiding framework for decision-making related growth, zoning amendments. So if it's all ag, then it's like, it's not even doing anything,
Yeah.
right? What's the point? So I like your idea of at least a hybrid model.
Yeah, the big thing with general plans for me is you're really sending signals to the development community to help bring about your vision for the city, and I just don't think we're sending really any signals, or I guess we're sending a signal. The signal I'm afraid we're sending is we're not planning, and we're
Well, on the other hand, if we try to get it too tacked down, we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot too, as far as
Yeah.
future development.
Exactly. That's why I think that hybrid thing kind of makes sense. In some areas, I don't think we should get too nailed down because it just doesn't, I don't think we have enough information to do it. So, all right, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Okay, does anyone have anything else they want to bring up in our work session? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close our work session here at 6:33 p.m. Would anyone like a quick break before we? Okay, welcome everyone to the Eagle Mountain City Planning Commission Policy Session for June 24th, 2025, time 6:40. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if y'all join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I'll note that Commissioner Free is excused tonight. He had a conflict. Okay, we'll go over declarations of conflicts of interest. Commissioner Whiting?
None.
Commissioner Fox?
None.
Commissioner Allen has none. Commissioner Strong?
None.
Commissioner Hess?
None.
Thank you. Okay, minutes from our last meeting, June 10th. Any corrections needed? Okay, if there's none, I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner, I make a motion to approve the June 10th meeting, Planning Commission meetings as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hess, seconded by Commissioner Whiting to approve the June 10th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Any need to clarify? And then we'll start the vote with Commissioner Fox.
Yay.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. Commissioner Strong?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiting?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you. Brandon, on to you for a status report.
I did give you I did fill you in on our discussion with the council and the future land use map. So you've heard about that, but in addition to that, we did have 2 preliminary plats that got approved. You'll remember a little bit of drama with Harmony, the Harmony MDA. We had the alternative design blocks that became kind of an issue. The MDA was amended to make, the amendment ended up facilitating Harmony A13 and A14 because of the prior amendment to the master development agreement and the alternative design blocks. So those were approved, and then we had a couple of text amendments or code amendments. There was we had a rezone of Gazelle Run. That was a small kind of remnant parcel over in the Porter Crossing area, got rezoned to the, I'm trying to remember, we proposed, yes, it was rezoned to R1, to residential 1. it was, you may remember this from a while ago, it was supposed to be an open space parcel, and then the developer had met their requirement for open space other ways, and so this ended up being proposed for residential use, and it got approved. And then that, actually, I think that's it. I thought we had a couple of text amendments there, but that's it. So we got that general plan going, and we'll be bringing some additional, should be bringing in the next month or so, some additional chapters for you to review. So we'll be, with the TMP coming to you tonight, that's going to open the door for us to start working on our transportation section, and we'll start working on our energy section and a few others. So kind of getting into some meatier chapters of the general plan here soon. So that is my report.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate that. Okay, we will move on to our action advisory items for the evening. Our first one we're excited about, the Transportation Master Plan. Turn it over to you. Thank you.
Commissioners, glad to be here. Thanks for your time. I'm David Salazar. With me is Shane Eller from Horrocks. Tonight, we're going to be going over some slides of how we updated the Transportation Master Plan and go over some of the information we have presented, and then entertain any questions that the commission has. So I'm going to have Shane lead it from over here.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. So I'm going to kind of explain about what we did for the Transportation Master Plan update. So in this update, we updated the MAG. We used a new MAG travel model, version 9. What that did is that updated the socioeconomic data. So how many households are in Eagle Mountain, and same with the amount of jobs. And that's for existing. And then we also went out to 2035, so 10 years out, and also 2050. And we had the help from Eagle Mountain to make sure our numbers from that model were correct, and we were able to use them to determine how many trips are coming or being generated in Eagle Mountain for those years. We also updated the project list based on our findings from the travel demand model. Like if there's certain roads that are not functioning at an acceptable level of service, then those will be able to be moved to a higher priority on the list. And then with that, we also updated the typical cross sections that you guys approved earlier this year. And then also we incorporated the firefly development into this TMP. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the travel demand model. It's basically a gravity flow model. So what it does, all those little shapes, if you guys can see the slide, all your city is broke up into TAZs. And each TAZ has a certain amount of households and jobs. And so that's what determines the amount of trips that are coming from each section and where they're going throughout the city. And also, like I said, it's a gravity model, which means the wider the road, the more attractive those trips will be to that road. So, say Pony Express, is a 5-lane road. It'll be, more trips will go on that than Eagle Mountain Boulevard, something like that. So it's whatever the speed is, and also the size of the road determines on where those trips are going to be generated and going. So throughout your city, you have, there's basically road classifications are divided into 4 main parts: freeway, arterials, collectors, and local roads. And I know there's subsections that Eagle Mountain has. They have rural, you guys have rural, you have pull out, you have minor and major classifications throughout the road. And what that means is, like, it depends on how, did I bump something? So what it means is mobility compared to land access. So a freeway, high mobility, but you can't access any lands. There's off ramps and on ramps. And as it goes down, then there's arterials, which is a little bit more land access. I'm just going to step away and not touch it. There's less mobility with arterials and freeways, but there's more land access. So basically, if you think of it this way, your local roads, they go to collectors. So all the local roads go to a collector, which then go to an arterial, which then goes to a freeway. So here's the existing network in Eagle Mountain. As you see, Pony Express is classified as a parkway, and so is the ranches. And this also shows all the existing signals and roundabouts in the area. As you can see, the one at Eagle Mountain and Pony Express has been changed to a signal, which I hope you guys are happy about. So as I was talking about, a level of service, they're classified into A, B, C, D, E, and F, which means,
Excuse me, can we move your computer over to the other side just to see if the connection is better? You can stay.
I can stay here. See, maybe this other side will work better.
It was, it's not anymore. Oh, now it is? Now it's not. It is now?
Okay,
Okay.
don't touch anything. Okay, so the level of service is separated into a letter grade, A, B, C, D, E, and F. As you can see from the figure, A is like there's hardly any traffic on the roads. B is a little bit more traffic as it goes down. In Eagle Mountain, your acceptable level of service is level of service D, which means it's almost at capacity, but it's not. After E and F, that just means when you get the backup and you get those long queue lengths that you don't want to see throughout the city. You don't really want to have an A or a B also, because that means you've built too much capacity for the roadway. The sweet spot's usually about a C or a D. And here's how we classify a roadway by the capacity. As you see, there's no two-lane freeways. But for an arterial, it's 13,400 ADT, which is average daily trips, which we usually count those from between Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Weekends are different because people don't work. So basically the standard is, Tuesday through Thursday is when we collect counts that will determine the ADT.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you know right off the top of your head what's Pony Express ADT right now, just for reference? Does anybody know what that is?
Depends on what part, because
Yeah,
it goes
yeah.
from like 50 down to 30, down to like 28.
Okay.
And you'll see on this next map, actually. I'm glad you brought that up, because on this next map, can you guys see those volumes on there? Yeah. So there it shows the existing level of service as of now from Pony Express. It shows that basically right around Ranches is barely, is still functioning. For an arterial, it's usually 32,800 ADT, and right now it's at 33. So it's a little bit over. But then as you'll see, some of Pony Express is failing, and those will be included in this next slide, which is the areas of focus. So for the Transportation Master Plan, we look at three things: capacity of the roadway, gaps in the roadway, which are connectivity, and also safety. As you see, the capacity, you guys, I'm sure you're all aware, Pony Express is horrible sometimes, and same with Ranches. For connectivity, there's the Mid-Valley Road, which is also Hidden Valley Road. It's going over Talus Drive, and then also the North Ranches Parkway that goes over into Wildflower, over to Saratoga Springs. And for the safety aspect, one of the projects will be the Trailheads traffic signal. This is a priority list that we created with the help from Eagle Mountain City, showing that what we feel is, should be focused on next. So if nothing's built in the next 10 years, this is what the roadways are anticipated to look like. All of Pony Express, except for one little section, right down here will be failing. And then also, you know, Corey, B-Ride, Freeway, and the ranches. So in the next 10 years, and we usually, for an IFFP, we usually do 10 years. And this is the roads that need to be, or the projects that need to be updated as we go through the next 10 years. And all the projects from the priority list have been included on this map. And these are just, some of them are roadway widenings, intersections, improvements, and also just new roads for the connectivity. And then this last slide will show all the projects that we have determined that need to be completed for Eagle Mountain by 2050. There is, I think, 140, there's 145 different projects throughout Eagle Mountain that we feel could be done to help with the connectivity and capacity issues. And this last slide, excuse me, is just the new roadway functional classification. So where the new, this also includes the new Cedar Valley Freeway in it. And that line down below, the blue one that's heading off the page, that'll actually connect to Redwood Road as it goes over through the mountain. But as you see, all the high, dotted lines, those are the new roads that will be updated or widened. And yeah, so Pony Express will become a major arterial, which is 7-lane, which will be able to handle the capacity or the volumes that are anticipated by 2015.
Can I ask a quick question? As you're kind of ranking them too, are we also contemplating like the impact during construction? Is that a criteria as well? Or is it we're just focusing on current need versus the pain that's gonna happen to get us there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, we don't take into account any of the construction that's going on. This is just more of this is a very high level planning. And same with the alignments of the roadways. Like you guys can adjust it and realign them however you like. This is more of just getting it on the plan and being like, hey, we need this project done. It's within the next 10 years. We can do impact fees on it.
So are these numbered, so I'm looking at that like 10-year map, and are those numbered by like when the project is gonna be done? I mean, I think that one right there. So like, for instance, one concern I have about this is you look at number 128, if you were to zoom in on that, and that is, that would put a road through Cedar Pass Ranch right there. And that, I think that's gonna be a problem.
So the way these are numbered, it's been from the previous years. So all the previous transportation master plan, we kept the same numbering. So as the projects came up, they were just added to the end. I didn't want to go through and renumber everything and just make it.
So if we wanted to eliminate number 128, that's something we could suggest, correct?
Yeah, and let me go back to the priority list. So if you can see, it shows the rankings we have, but then it also shows next to it the number, the project number. So like for number 1 ranking, Ranches Parkway widening, that's project 80 and 126. But then here's 128, the new road, and 19.
I guess another question on that. So the ranking is the priority, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one question I have about this, putting the Mid-Valley Road extension over to Redwood Road seems to be a high, I mean, it's project number 7, which I like to see that. What was I seeing in front of that I thought was, oh, maybe I'm seeing something else. Yeah, I mean, project 4, I think I need some more discussion on project 4 for sure. But yeah, a Mid-Valley road, number 7, seems to be a really high priority for me.
Any other questions or comments, or we keep going? Do you have more for us?
Oh, that's it?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I have another question then. So the population, so here's one of my concerns when I'm looking through the transportation master plan. So population projection in the plan seems off to me personally, and the reason why I state that is we're at 74,000 approximately people right now. There are around 25,000 or more lots already vested. If we approve no more lots, our average household size is around 4. So if what is vested gets built, there's 100,000 people. That puts us at 174,000, assuming we approve no more lots. Am I off on the math? Or is that right?
That's roughly accurate.
So that's where I've seen projections saying, oh, at full build-out, Eagle Mountain is 180,000 people. What I'm seeing is if we approve no more new lots, we're at 180,000. That's what I'm seeing. And so I'm just worried that any of the modeling, I just want to make sure the modeling was done on, I think the population numbers were too low. That's my biggest concern, the population numbers were too low. Because I'm honestly seeing build-out being closer to 250 to 280,000 people. Not that that's necessarily what we want, but I think that's just what will happen. And I think the other part of the thing with the population modeling, which is difficult, is northern Utah County. Imagine within 20 years, I can't imagine that Lehigh has any more space to build. Saratoga won't have any more space to build. And so those projections, I saw the numbers tapering in our transportation master plan, saying, well, if the growth rate's going to slow in Eagle Mountain, and I would contend it's going to be the opposite because there's nowhere else in northern Utah County to put a home anywhere. There won't be. I mean, imagine 25 years ago, what was this place, what was Saratoga, and what was Harriman? And look at what those are. So 20 years from now, imagine. And that's why I'm thinking that the population projections are really low, as well as the growth. I think the growth rate is going to be much higher than what has been at least indicated in the transportation master plan. That's just my concern. I just want to make sure we sort of stress test it a little bit and say, well, okay, what does it look like if the population actually is this much more? Can we plan towards sort of a higher number than the average number? That's just one of my main concerns. Right, a sort of a little bit more worst case scenario, because I think we're actually going to hit that based on the fact that people will have nowhere else to live in northern Utah County.
I think there's one thing that, and I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but one thing that's going to affect those population projections is where we are with energy and water, and whether we're going to be able to maintain that growth. And so unless we find some solutions to those things, I can't see the growth going the way we're talking about.
Hey, Brandon, do you have something?
Oh, I was just going to concur with you, Commissioner Whiting, that we did a presentation to the council last November, and based off vested and platted, remaining platted lots and vested units, yeah, we were right in that neighborhood of 160 to 175, so yeah, 180's right there, so it's
Assuming no.
yeah, no new development, no new approvals.
And this is something that we're going to be updating on a 2 or 3 year basis. So this is information we have right now in our current projections. Things can change, more water can be available for use, other options. So this is going to be an ongoing process for us.
So it seems like in terms of this snapshot, at least it provides a ranking for immediate needs.
Yes.
Okay, which I'm great with that.
Yep.
I'm great with that.
I don't see any mass transportation in here as far as light rail or something. I gotta believe that we're at least thinking about that.
I think there is a transit map in the TMP. We do have one. I don't remember where it is off the top of my head, but yeah. But typically, a lot of times, they're not necessarily funded by the city and, paid from impact fees. That's kind of why it's not in this. We have schematics of showing where they would be, but a lot of that would be from UTA, UDOT state, other funding resources.
you know, if we're looking out 10 to 20 years, we've got to find some way, because we're real limited on where roads can even go now. So, you know, I just kind of think we're not thinking outside the box here a little bit.
No, I absolutely agree that transportation is a big component. We're meeting with some of the folks from UTA, from the Fresh Start group, and as well looking at those, but it really wasn't a part of the TMP, as we're looking at more just directly at roadways infrastructure. But that is something, as a staff, we are looking at and working at light rail, rapid bus transit as well. We know we have the new line coming in next year. It's going to come all the way down to City Center. There's a park and ride that's going on Pony Express, just kind of right by the power corridor. So that's something the city is also working on actively.
So this is the UTA route, right? Yeah. With a new line coming in. Perfect. And then, first of all, thank you for your work on this. I know it's a big, big undertaking, so thank you for doing all that. Now, as we're also looking at the rankings, are we factoring in kind of like likelihood of getting funding as well, like from MAG and the state? Like, are we ranking that in probability of getting the funding at that time?
That's correct, and that's why some of the projects like the Mid-Valley Road Extension is not as high as we'd like it to be, because if you look at the price tag for that one, it's a lot bigger than the other ones. So, but we are looking at other revenues and grants, and that's one we're hoping to work with MAG and possibly even UDOT to connect, because we project that connecting Cedar Fort, you know, Eagle Mountain City, and then Saratoga Springs as well. So, and just for correction, we missed that. It's actually going to Mountain View corridor. It's not going all the way to Redwood. So.
Yeah, it's staggering when you look at the cost for these, right? The lay citizen, like, I mean, I didn't really know until I really got in, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Okay, any other questions before we open our public hearing? Okay, thank you. I have some more questions in a minute. Okay, as mentioned, this item is a public hearing, so it's 7:05 p.m. We will open the public hearing. Has anyone received any communication on this item? Anyone here like to address us on this? Please, Bettina.
Bettina Cameron, speaking on behalf of the Eagle Mountain Nature Wildlife Alliance. I'm actually glad that Commissioner Whiting brought up Project 128. That is not part of our current transportation master plan. And in our current transportation master plan, it says that if a project is not included in part of this transportation master plan, it is not to be really considered unless it's absolutely needed. At that meeting, when that transportation master plan was approved, they actually took the road and they arched it to stay out of the corridor and go into the future or currently the airport road, just to let you know, because that is adding an additional wildlife crossing. But on a bright note, we are here to let you know that we noticed in the IFFP that wildlife crossings were not funded. So wherever there's a crossing, those future numbers are severely underestimated. So that sounds like doom and gloom, right? But if we plan on our future wildlife crossings now, we have resources, other nonprofits that can help the city incorporate those fundings now that if they're, because sometimes they won't label it wildlife crossing. Let's say they need a culvert. It's considered like a waterway or a pedestrian, but they can design it as a wildlife crossing and tap into funding that typically you will not get for the wildlife crossing. So we would like to propose, because we know this is late in the game, and we just talked to Horrocks, and we would like to suggest that if the city could add a little bullet that says, hey, the city will continue to work on designing and getting cost estimates of wildlife crossings, and once that information is gathered, that the IFFP and/or transportation master plan is then updated. We would like to send some resources for the city to work with, like Patricia Kramer with the Wildlife Connectivity Network. she is known internationally, and she's currently the one that's working on the Crosstex highway wildlife crossing here in Eagle Mountain on Highway 73, to help design these wildlife crossings, and then we can have something to have engineers, develop and stuff, and get approximate estimates. Do you have any questions? Was that kind of, clear? Did that make sense? Yeah, we just really want to have this incorporated so we don't miss, opportunities. All right, thank you very much. Yes.
Bettina, would that be obviously associated on a particular project numbers that would cross the wildlife corridor, that it would be a note under each one of those, or just a general note that we would
Just
say,
even a general-
wherever any future plans do cross here, we would like to highlight the point that, because that's going to be a cost of the project that
Right.
is going to exceed anything that anybody consider. I mean, they're very expensive, outside of, some other reason, a huge drainage culvert or something like that, but, yeah.
Even just a general note, that way we can reference.
Yep.
And as a city works with these third parties, and we are here to help, introduce and negotiate and help whatever way, and maybe even help find ways to have engineers donate their services. Yeah, just a general, so it's referenced, and we can come back, the city, when I say we, with some actual costs, so it's not forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Bettina. Okay, seeing no one else here to address us, we'll close the public hearing at 7:09 PM. Thank you. Okay, so discussion on this. Let's jump into it.
If it were to get approved, it would have to be on the condition that project 128 is removed from the plan. Yeah.
So 128, I'll pull up my map real quick here.
Is there a reason why?
There is. The master plan we had before had everything going onto Airport Road. And what we're currently showing is construction there. There are unknown factors with the airport, as we know, are being talked about. Where is the airport going to go? Is there going to be a clearance section to the north? Because originally that is shown, is it projecting? I'm plugged in. Yeah, I'm plugged in. No, thank you. So originally, it had shown this road, kind of 19, kind of turning up into Airport Road here. And the concern we had from that design when looking at the model is that we're now putting everything back onto Airport Road. And one of the problems we have with Eagle Mountain City is we have so many island communities that dump onto a few collector roads, and then they get overloaded. We're trying to increase connectivity throughout the city and connect these island communities together. And when we saw that Airport Road started to get at a capacity, in the future build out, and especially for like Lone Tree right now that doesn't have access right now, they could potentially be limited if there is an accident, let's say on Airport Road, and everyone's trying to leave. There's no other northbound exit at that point. So having that additional connection doesn't make sense. UDOT just put a traffic signal there as well on their layout for SR 73. That's going to be a big access connection with the frontage road interchange system. So they are planning for that to be a road connecting.
And I agree. I don't want the 128 going through Cedar Pass Ranch. That's a big problem for me. And so, I agree.
Yeah, so it's an equestrian community. There are no sidewalks. There's no lights, like street lights. It's an HOA. The roads obviously are not private roads, but those roads were built to a county standard, not to a city, so those roads would all have to be redone. That whole section would have to be redone. It would have to cross through the wildlife corridor at an additional point, as opposed to just curving back over to Airport Road and having one crossing. speaking just from a personal standpoint, so the property where I live in Cedar Pass Ranch, there's, someone died on horseback. I mean, there was a horse accident going down the road, and that's right at the house where I live. There are horses that are coming up and down that road as well, and so it's an unusual situation. I mean, I understand connectivity is an important thing, but then we also have to balance that with health, safety, welfare issues that I think, I mean, we already, I mean, this came before the city when there was Deer Haven wanted to connect into Cedar Pass Ranch and do the health, safety, welfare issues. There were like 2 or 3 or 4 variances that got approved by a prior planning commission in order to because of that particular situation. So I think that, if this were to advance forward, I just think that's the wrong move. It sort of interrupts the character of that neighborhood. It's also, I mean, it's a neighborhood that there are a lot of runners, bikers, moms pushing strollers that don't live in the neighborhood, but they go to that neighborhood because they enjoy the space that they could, use there. So I mean, I can't speak for UDOT putting a traffic signal there, but UDOT wouldn't have, any decision-making on 128, right? I mean, that would be a city decision.
Correct, that's correct.
Yeah.
It was just more of what they were seeing from traffic patterns and flow,
Yeah.
things of that nature. We were
Yeah.
trying to align with UDOT.
Yeah, but at some point, I mean, the freeway comes in, there are no traffic signals, but there's gonna be an on-ramp or off-ramp or something right there, it sounds like.
Correct, yeah, there's a whole frontage road system, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all those things could be accommodated. I mean, you're talking 50 years down the road at 180,000 people. And I know that I don't live in that neighborhood, so I don't have quite the same emphasis or priority, but when you're talking about transportation from a city of 180,000 people to the highway, everything needs to be explored as a possibility. And those things could be mitigated through design, through accommodations, and clearly there's a need to have as much access between the main thoroughfare, Pony Express Parkway, to the highway. Without 128, you have 3 in 50 years. So think of all the cities that would regret not having an additional access to it. And I think there's opportunities there to accommodate, and a good negotiation is nobody's happy about it, but both parties get served. But I'm not opposed to it. Again, I don't have the same priorities. I don't live in the same neighborhood, but in my mind, everything could be accommodated.
Rob, did you have something?
Yes, I might add that in recent conversations with representatives from that development, they have expressed interest in actually going to private streets if it were possible, but they've also debated the question of the economics of that. But speed cut through, pass-through traffic as it is for them is a concern. They wondered about traffic control devices, which we won't do, such as speed humps or bumps or curbs, et cetera, and other kinds. But they also wanted to explore the idea of gating the community. And given the way that was developed as a planned community, I think that it'll be, and probably politically, an uphill battle to try and push that through there, frankly.
Okay, any other comments on the transportation plan? I guess I have one question. Since you guys have been working on this, as you know, traffic is a major concern out here. After putting this together, do we feel like the future is bright for our citizens, or there's still going to be a lot of concerns? How are we feeling after all of our hard work on this?
I think it's bright. I feel like it's an uphill battle, but I feel like we have the support from council and mayor to realize that transportation is an important factor, that we can't just start developing here or there and we'll connect how we can. So we have a lot of support to be forward thinking and think of things that may be unconventional or difficult, and we obviously want to respect all of our neighbors and all of our communities, but when we design, we're trying to look at the city as a whole and see what makes sense for the entire city as we continue to grow, and our numbers, like you said, could even be higher in our next evaluation. So that's our ultimate goal. It's just to increase that connections and provide better traffic flow for our citizens and accommodate safety.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, big concern, but I'm encouraged by what I see here, so thank you for your hard work on this. Any other comments?
Yeah, make Airport Road bigger. If that's one of the concerns, make it bigger. Anyway, that's just my thought there.
Okay, any final comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Don't know if this motion will pass, but I'm going to put it before everybody anyway.
Actually, sorry, can I pause you real quick? So
Yeah.
we've got in here that we approve it, but this is a recommendation of city council, correct? So the staff report is showing approved, but it's a recommendation. Sorry, just wanted to.
Yeah. I motion that we forward a positive recommendation to the city council of the transportation master plan with the conditions that Project 128 is removed, and that the comments from the Eagle Mountain Nature and Wildlife Alliance are adhered to.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Whiting, seconded by Commissioner Strong to recommend approval to the city council with the stipulation 128 is removed, and then that the Eagle Mountain Nature and Wildlife Alliance's comments are included in our recommendation. Any need to clarify that?
I just have one question. You're saying remove it. We got any solutions to put forward as far as being able, you're saying making Airport Road bigger, but what we're looking for is access to 73, more access points to 73. That's the reason for it, right? We got any solutions for this?
Currently, no, and that was our concern too. Even if we make it bigger, if there's an accident or something, then we lose that connection. So this is currently what the best option we had, lining up with UDOT's layout, the expansion of SR 73.
I mean, and truth be told, like if people come in, 128, I mean, there's still a road there. Canyon Wash Drive is a road.
Yep.
People come in, they just wouldn't be able to connect to 19. That coming into Cedar Pass Ranch, you can still get over to Pony Express, by the way. There's still, you can still drive through the neighborhood and make it there. What I'm just saying is eliminating this access point from 19 to 128. If you could see this, and it's not, detailed enough to see, but you can come in on Canyon Wash, cut across, and you can connect into both ranches and Pony Express already, which are public roads. So those connections are there. When there are accidents on SR 73, we do have people coming through the neighborhood, which is totally fine. It's not a problem. And even when I come home from work, sometimes I'll come in on one of those and there are people following me through and they connect all the way down, and I see them go all the way down into Pony Express. So there is already connectivity there. It's just a matter of eliminating the connection from 19 to 128. And anyway, and I guess I would probably amend my motion to channel 119 to connect over to Airport Road as opposed to connecting to 128 and then eliminate the 128 project.
If I could respond, we had looked at that possibility as well, but in talking with citizens from that area, we were concerned we would put more traffic in Cedar Pass Ranch. Having the 128, we would just be a straight shot down, and there would be, I think there's either 10 or 12 homes along that stretch, and they're 5-acre lots typically. They're pretty far set back. The current road width is 55 feet. We would be needing another 11 feet on either side for that road, and then the connection down. So we were trying to avoid traffic filling up the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think if we were to have the citizens come from Cedar Pass Ranch, I think they would speak against 128. I think they prefer not have that connection down to 19. I just think it adds another series of potential issues that again, going back to the health, safety, welfare of that, it sort of interrupts. It would be interesting for the decision makers, like on the city council particularly, and to go there to see the roads, see the neighborhood, see horses coming up and down that path. Like horses and cars are not very compatible, and yet it's an equestrian community. And when horses are on that, they're on the asphalt. You could sort of get them off onto the side and walk them up the park strip, but it's usually the horses are right there on the road itself, and that's why I just don't see, cutting an equestrian community in a part like this and creating an issue with the horses that are going to be there. It's just not compatible.
And so Commissioner Whiting, you're amending your motion, right?
Yeah, the amended motion would be to channel 19 to connect over to Airport Road, which,
Second still stand? Okay. So second still stands on that amended motion. Got that okay? Okay, let's see, we will start the vote. Commissioner Strong,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
No.
Commissioner Whiting,
yes.
Commissioner Fox.
Abstain.
Ooh. So I guess it's my turn, so we need. Oh. I will, I'll say no on that one. So that doesn't pass, nothing happens 2-2 on that one. My only concern on it is we just need to find some sort of other pathway through there. Looking at city as a whole, I feel bad. Cedar Pass Ranch, again, Commissioner Whiting has eloquently expressed the character of that neighborhood, and I agree 100% with that. But just looking at the city as a whole, we got to figure something out north-south. So the motion failed, so we're going to need to do another motion because we had 2 for, 2 against, and 1 abstention. Would anyone else like to make a motion? We're going to get anything approved moving forward? I'll make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation to City Council for the Master Transportation Plan here with the inclusion, with the recommendation to include the comments from the Eagle Mountain Nature and Wildlife Alliance about the wildlife crossings and looking at that.
Second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Allen, second by Commissioner Hess. Forward a positive recommendation with the inclusion of the comments from the Eagle Mountain Nature and Wildlife Alliance. Any to clarify that one? Okay, Commissioner Hess, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Commissioner Whiting,
No.
Commissioner Fox.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Allen is a yes. Commissioner Strong.
No.
Okay, so that passes 3-2 on to the City Council. Commissioner Whiting, Commissioner Strong, anything else to say?
When you present this to the City Council, are our comments already forwarded to them, or is that one of those things where I need to reach out to the City Council and share my thoughts why there was a no vote?
We can put them in the minutes. We'll, when the minutes are prepared, we can note that we can note that who voted. Yes, it's
Yeah, so
recorded.
they put the planning commission's recommendation, so it would go as a 3-2 vote.
3-2
and,
vote.
You know, they could certainly make a note of the reasons.
Do we know when this is scheduled to be heard before the City Council?
Next week.
Next week, correct.
Tuesday?
Okay, thank you. We'll move
Thank
on
you.
to the next item. Item 7B, the annual management plan, and let's see, who has this one for us?
Chair,
Brandon, yeah.
this one, we had some new information today that has caused us, well, essentially the applicants asked for this to be continued. Trying to figure out how to explain this one. There's new information, and we ask that you continue it till July 8th. We're going to continue to work with. There was a public comment. It was support for the Richardsons' right to keep ponies and goats. It was by Heather Wrigley. So I can read that to you, or pass it down, whatever you'd like. So
I mean, if we're just gonna table it, we can just read it into the record when we do the public hearing.
public hearing. Okay. Yeah. So recommend. We're going to continue working with the applicant. We found a code issue on this one, so we're going to keep working, looking at it and see if there's some ways to work with the applicant on this one.
Perfect. Okay, then Commission, I move that we table item 7B until our July 8th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Strong to table until July 8th. Any need to clarify? Okay, Commissioner Whiting, start the vote with you.
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. Commissioner Strong?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0. See that again in a couple weeks. Okay, moving on to item 7C, amending more animal management practices.
This one also, there's a recommendation to table
Okay.
until July 8th.
Perfect. Then, Commissioner, I move that we table this one until July 8th.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Allen, second by Commissioner Fox to table until July 8th. Any need to clarify? Okay, Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. Commissioner Strong?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiting?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you. Guess that's one way to go quick through a meeting. Just table everything to a future meeting. Okay, item 7D, talking about parking lots. Let's see, Rob, you have this one?
Yes, Chair, Commissioners. An aspect of this particular code amendment was put on the council's priority list many months ago, and that is the location of parking areas relative to their land use that they serve. There was no direction that I recall given to staff as far as metrics to put into some kind of code amendment. So candidly, the 100-foot measurement is a number out of a hat. You can look at different parking lot layouts to include open space and setbacks to a building, if you're thinking, say, of a multifamily structure, and get an idea of about how far away that is. It might be a couple parking rows preceded from the 4-plex or 10-plex or whatever might go in, per se, but it's again, just a number out of a hat. But what they wanted to make sure of that would happen was that indeed we would have a parking lot nearby a structure. I think it came about as maybe part of the Porter's Crossing discussion of that development when we had parking lots that were pretty outboard of some of the units that they were to serve. The other aspect of this project, or excuse me, this amendment, sorry, tired today, that's in this code draft has to do with shared parking. You remember was it A to Z, is a daycare of sorts, school over in the southeast corner, I believe, of Pony and Ranches, brought this issue to a forefront, which was, well, how much shared parking should we allocate to somebody to be able to use with their neighbor? Should we also require a joint users maintenance agreement, which we should? And then particularly, well, who's going to decide whether the shared parking agreement should be approved? Would it be the Planning Commission, which is common, or City Council? Council wanted to put that in their arena. And so that's what this draft proposes. And then, of course, to go with that, you have as the code basically requires now, effectively, it's a prepared circulation analysis. It's not a full traffic impact study, but it's something that comes from a traffic engineer, presumably, or their accredited professional that says the shared parking agreement can work. A lot of times common sense will dictate that, but our code insists on a higher standard. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Any questions? Commissioner
Yeah,
Hess?
I got a couple questions. Like E2, the city site plan approval shall require for lot placement. How is the city going to really require the appropriate spacing of a particular parking lots throughout a multi-family project? For example, if in a development approach, they're going to first prioritize their access to the buildings and their lots, they're going to give that priority, and then they usually put parking where it fits.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a reality that the city would say, hey, you haven't spread these out efficiently? Is that the goal?
Well,
With that would require them to redesign, which of course, a lot of applicants want to, again, prioritize their maximum use of selling units or lots. That would be my first question.
Chair and Commissioner Hess, expectedly, my thought is that they, as a designer team working for a developer, would pre-factor that in and work around that and realize, like any other improvement requirement, we've got to make sure we still keep these parking lots within that distance, whatever the distance ends up being.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily mean the entire parking lot has to be within that envelope of 100 feet or closer, or again, whatever number. But rather, my contemplation was just maybe a corner of it, just some aspect of it that's,
Okay.
you can draw a line between.
Okay. The other comment I had is 1755, 100, up to 40% of the required parking for a given primary land use. How does the city, how would you factor in a phased project, an MDA, that has parking requirements for each phase? In some phases, would probably be the multifamily, and the second phase might be the commercial. But if the multifamily is relying on the shared parking from the commercial, would that be a requirement in the MDA that they would have to build that sufficient parking, I'm guessing, to meet their requirements?
Well, if you think about how jurisdictions handle that question, and by the way, this shared parking arrangement is more often I've seen at least applied after the fact between two adjoining businesses, usually mom and pops. But in a large development like that, we are looking for, as a group, planning group, again, commensurate with what our colleagues would do in other jurisdictions, a satisfaction, unless it's detailed specifically otherwise in, say, an MDA, of having sufficient parking for whatever's being built on any given property, be it parcel or lot usually, for a given use that's going on there, whether it's one standalone use, whether it's a grouping of tenant spaces within a strip commercial building, for example, so that it can stand and function independently. And if that's not going to be the case, then expectedly at that time, usually not as through this methodology, but or process, but as part of the original inception entitlement, you would again pre-plan that and phase it, yes, but that's usually lined out ahead of time. This is again typically something like we saw with the other business, where Joe Schmuckatelli has his taco shop, standalone building, and this person has their barber shop, and they want to co-share spaces because the parking's tight, and they come to the city and say, can we do that when we build out?
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? I was just gonna ask Rob, have you seen any other municipality have something similar with that, like 100 feet close to it, or is that?
On the other one? No, but, my experience in field of vision is like so. It might be decent, but it's like so. And I haven't investigated that. It was kind of one of those low-hanging fruit priorities in my view.
Mm-hmm.
But it was put on that list, so we have to react to it as staff.
Yeah, and we can always modify it later too, so,
If you really want to comes right
Okay.
down to it, that's how much of a distance.
yeah. Okay, any questions for staff before we do the public hearing? Okay, then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:35 PM. Have we received any communication on this item? Okay, anyone here like to address us on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:35 PM. Any comments? Okay, if there are none, I will entertain a motion. Okay, I guess I'll make the motion. Commissioner, I move that we forward a positive recommendation to City Council for item 7D as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Hess to forward a positive recommendation to City Council for item 7D. Any need to clarify? Okay, I think we're on Commissioner Fox first.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. Commissioner Strong?
No.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiting?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Strong, anything to say on that one? Okay. We'll move on to item 7E. Drive-through lanes. Rob, you got this one?
Oh, I'm happier about this one. Because we actually do allow still drive-throughs within the city. Got Commissioner Hess smiling. You've heard me trumpet this before, and the staff report explained why it's back in front of you. We went on to council and they tabled it. That's because we've changed the language a little bit, added some formatting stuff in there, et cetera. Legals looked it over and they've given us a couple of tidbits to add in, which we did, and we appreciate their oversight. I was asked at the city council meeting when this was last reviewed, and I didn't go into a lot of detail, obviously, in your report, but are there any other, particularly Utah jurisdictions, that use this bypass/escape lane as part of their actual code? And so I've cited the ones that do: Salt Lake, East Carbon County, and Price. And there are other jurisdictions in the country, and the sampling is on the second page of the report, that have something like that. I came from a jurisdiction where I worked some time where we introduced this requirement, and it was done because of a medical condition that prompted the idealizing of such a standard. And I've seen around, in the Utah Valley area, now that I've been here for a while, between Salt Lake out to our neck of the woods, a variety of drive-throughs that have this by default because the business wants to have them, like a corporate, like a McDonald's, for example, and places that don't. I'm thinking of the last one I was in, which was Burger Supreme in Provo on the Parkway. There's another one over here in Saratoga that doesn't have, there's the Arctic Circle there, and so forth. So again, it's just a philosophical question. Granted, you lose a little bit of real estate to a drive-through or escape lane, but the inclination is to try and favor safety and convenience. Whether you're stuck in a line because you've got curbing there, or trees, landscaping, or a wall, whatever it may be, that puts you in a position, if you're going through that lane, as you know, but just to beat a dead horse, sorry, that if you have a medical emergency, or you find out something's not on the menu and you want to blitz out of there, you have any other reason to be out there in a hurry, or you're coming through and somebody has to, maybe your EMT is coming through, or a policeman, or you have a vehicle that breaks down, as Commissioner Fox once mentioned. I think you had a business where that happened, and blocks the business's drive-through lanes so people can't get in and out of there, and they can't do business for a while until a tow truck shows up and somehow finagles its way in there to pull the vehicle out of there. All those are reasons why, at least in this planner's view, it's a better idea to have these than not. Notice, though, that there's no effort to try and be onerous about this. So this code proposal does not ask for an entire drive-through lane stretch to be piggybacked to an escape lane of equal length. Rather, it's a bump out and around at the window. One car length in front, one behind, with some stacking minimums. And then if you have, for example, as one illustration shows, for example, credit union or bank, you have a series of drive-through lanes, including oftentimes ATM on the outboard lane, not always, but they usually have an outside skirting lane, like the picture shows, the illustration, sorry, and that would count. And my thought is that if we have a site plan where there's a difficult condition, predicament, space is tight, as part of that review, we can work with it. And if we have to grant exceptions to in some fashion, so be it. That's all for now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I did. I know that as a licensed landscape architect, if I designed a drive-through, which we had to do for our licensure, if I didn't design an escape lane, I would fail. So just so you know, I can design a drive-through. I can't sign the plans, but
Did you get an A on that project?
No, but I did design a horse and buggy parking in Pennsylvania, so I felt pretty happy about that. But I had a question, and I hate to ask this question because it's part of the topic. So under E1, so in the code, we're assuming that a vehicle is a 20-foot stacking space. Every vehicle, the drive-throughs have to account for a 20-foot space.
Yeah.
1A, for restaurant drive-through uses, 5 20-foot spaces in length between the drive-up window, is that where we get the food?
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're picking up the food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the street is required. So is 1A saying that from the public street up to the drive-in order window and to the pickup, they only have to have 5 spaces?
As a minimum.
As a minimum. And then B, for all other uses, 3 spaces, 20-foot spaces, between the drive-up window and the street through the associated drive-through lanes. Okay. So you will, at minimum, and this probably happens at Taco Bell, you can't have more than 4 or 5 vehicles before from the drive-up window where they pick up the food and where they back onto it's not a public road, it's the access. So between the order window, right, where you order the window, where you make the order, then you wait. So it's essentially 100 feet. So they've got to measure 100 feet. And then we say our very first statement, A, prevent or discourage vehicles from queuing over sidewalks or public streets or not interfere with pedestrian or vehicle circulation. So are we just going to take the business's word that 100 feet is enough for them to not back up? Obviously, good businesses will know what they want to do, but at the same time, we've all seen that drive-through businesses are trying to happen on a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller lot, which is why they don't who don't usually use the escape lane. But this just kind of gets to the fact that, I think those distances need to be increased. I think some of those need to be increased because it's, you know, we want them to be successful. And only having 5 cars from the point where we say, don't cross the sidewalk to where you pick up your food, I mean, obviously is, you know, everyone's a little bit different, but, so, that wasn't really a question, I apologize for that, but
Well, Commissioner Hess,
clarification.
I frankly thought you were going to go the other direction
Yeah.
with that one. But this was a tacked on suggestion
Okay.
that came to me.
Yeah.
But I think in thinking about this through, we don't even have a stacking minimum that I recall right now in our code. Some of this kind of replaces what we have or mimics some of it, as you know. So adding that in, again, it's going to be a subjective number. Some people would argue, well, 20-foot space, 100 feet of travel distance around through there, that's taking up a lot of real estate. And we don't have that big a property. And now you're saying we're going to push our building that far back or loop this around somehow that works? We get your escape lane, that's just a little bump out, but now we got this long drive-through lane built into this too. My emphasis in this
Yeah.
has been to get the escape lane.
Yeah.
Whether this stacking distance stuff on these A and B call-outs or lines, sentences,
Yeah.
whatever, doesn't, frankly, I don't have a personal
Okay.
horn to trumpet on that. I don't want to see that sink the rest of the ship.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, just quick clarification on that. So it has restaurant drive-throughs and then B, all other uses.
Yeah.
Do like these soda drink shop stands, do those count as a restaurant?
We would consider them as such, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, this item is a public hearing, so at 7:44 PM, we'll open the public hearing. Have we received any communication on this item? Anyone here like to address us on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:44 PM. Any comments?
I think Commissioner Hess should be the one that makes the motion. That's my only comment.
Torture. Before I make the motion, there are cities that have banned drive-throughs. Those would be Minneapolis, different cities throughout the state. But anyway, that's for another city to decide. I make a motion to forward a positive recommendation. Wait, are we making a recommendation here? Okay. Recommendation to agenda item 7E regarding drive-through lanes.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hess, second by Commissioner Whiting to forward a positive recommendation to City Council. Any to clarify? Okay, we're on Commissioner Strong.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiting,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, on to the next one. I think we're still going with the Rob Show, right? 7F.
Sorry, I didn't realize the mic went off. This code amendment is hopefully fairly simple. It's simply trying to clarify what the code basically already says now. At the end or bottom of the table, it regulates setbacks and other dimensional requirements in 172540 as applicable to residential properties and quasi-residential ag-type properties, et cetera. It does also do one other thing that our current code doesn't. So just going through the list, if you look at the comparison, or you compare, excuse me, between the two tables, the one where I've got the strikeouts and the one below it, you'll notice that with respect to the FR zone, there's a change there. And it basically makes it seem like in the new version that the FR code or FR zone does not cater to livestock, and therefore the setback standards are considered, quote, non-applicable. And the reason for that is that the table above, where you have your land use controls, already says that livestock is not allowed in FR zone with its affected properties. The next clarification is that, excuse me, livestock structures are meant to be kept 6 feet from all other structures. So usually that's going to be on the same property where they sit from the owners of animals' house, other buildings, et cetera. And that kind of coincides. least with the house part, the way our building department right now is interpreting proximity is allowed. Then you also have the 50-foot from nearby residences. That's not changing, it's still there, and that's going from the livestock housing structure to across the fence line. It's not to the property line. Like it says, it's going to the residence, so we would have to, if someone submitted an application for having some kind of animals, like a management plan, we would be measuring from coop or corral or whatever over to the neighbors' houses. This, so there's 3 setbacks in total now, plus the accessory structure setback. That's another change in the footnote, because now livestock structures will have to meet accessory structure setbacks, even if they're under 200 square feet. That's not dog houses, though. This came about, this clarification, because some months ago, maybe a year ago, a pair of neighboring property owners began fighting over the question of how close a chicken coop could be to the property line and to the neighbor's house. You would think it'd be an easy answer, but in digging into our code, we realized there's some anomalies there that don't give a clear indication. So this attempts to fix that. Legals looked over it and they suggested a change to it, which was adopted. And so we're recommending it for approval.
Okay, any questions for staff? Commissioner Whiting?
So chicken coops would fall under this to where they would have to be 50 feet from the neighboring structure?
Well, and Commissioner Whiting, I realized when you asked that question, I said something in here, because this is for livestock, and in our code, chickens are not considered by definition livestock.
Chickens are not
So it might be
considered.
non-applicable, but something like a goat pen, well, I guess the loafing shed maybe would be something that you could say it'd have to be 50 feet away.
Smell just as bad.
And for that matter, we don't
So,
have,
so the chickens could still be, so where could a chicken coop be placed? If this passes, I mean, where could a chicken coop?
we just have to meet the accessory structure setback, so 5, 10, whatever feet away from property line.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have to worry about the 6 feet or the 50-foot deal.
Okay. Okay, because chickens, for instance, in the FR zone, you can have chickens in the FR
Yeah.
zone, and I think even in
Yeah.
some of those others, like R1, R2, I can't remember
They're allowed
exactly.
across the board pretty much, you're right.
Yeah,
But it's because they didn't define them as a type of livestock, quote unquote,
Okay.
so you might as well treat them as a cat.
okay, so it's basically gonna, the people who currently have chickens, they're gonna still be able to have the chickens,
Yeah.
and the distance is,
Yeah, this is only gonna come up really in the case of somebody that's inquiring of us what the standards are, or in a code enforcement situation where there's something that post-dates the passage of this code that's set up improperly.
and then here's another question on the animal thing. So what if you have, so in the FR zone, what if you have a 0.5 acre lot? And usually those could allow horses, but you're saying FR zones can't have horses, period.
You know, right now they can't have.
Okay, so
livestock.
they currently don't enjoy that, even
Currently
if they
don't.
have the right lot size,
Correct.
which seems that should be a correction at some point, in my opinion. But
Yeah, that came from, there was quite a bit of back and forth on the animal code preceding
Yeah.
our time even, in a sense, or just as I came on board the city, and they settled out on that. And I didn't propose to change that. That was a big enough argument at the time that I just didn't want to go there.
Okay, I have a question on the chicken coop thing. I know chickens are not livestock. Is a chicken coop that's just fenced with a shade considered a structure?
No, we don't treat fences or screens as
All right.
structures. I mean, for that
Okay.
context.
So that can be on the fence line, and that can be attached to a shed, next to the shed.
Yeah, we'll just move that shed a little ways away.
Okay, so if on the livestock, if the requirement is it has to be 50 feet, okay, sorry, you answered the question, because it has to follow the accessory within the lot itself.
You have 3.
Because I was gonna say, if your neighbor's house is 60 feet away, that means I can put it on the property line.
You got,
You
so
can't.
again, you've got now with this, instead of 2, you'll have 3 setback checks.
Gotcha.
50 foot, 6 foot where applicable, and the
Accessory.
accessory structure setback regardless, if it's a structure.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, this item is a public hearing, so it's 7:52 PM. We'll open the public hearing. Has anyone received any communication on this item? Anyone here like to address us? Please, Bettina. I have to turn the microphone on again, sorry.
Bettina Cameron, Cedar Pass Ranch resident, because I know where this could possibly go. The Foothill residential, they can get that equestrian overlay zone. So, just, yeah, I don't want people like, woo. Yep, thanks.
Okay, seeing no one else here to address this, we'll close the public hearing at 7:52 PM. Okay, thoughts, comments? If there's nothing, I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I make a motion to forward a positive recommendation for agenda item 7F, amending the Eagle Mountain Municipal Code 171030 structure definition. Is that the right one? Yeah, sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hess, seconded by Commissioner Strong to forward a positive recommendation to City Council for item 7F. Any need to clarify? Okay, we'll start with both Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiting,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is a yes, Commissioner Strong.
Yes.
That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, item 7G. Let's keep the Rob Show going.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. Chair and Commissioners, the genesis of this particular amendment harkens back to a project that was approved by the city based on understood and deemed compliance, a series of townhouses in the Pinnacles subdivision that was governed, is governed by an MDA that just leaves the area where the townhouses were proposed open for development for such a use. It is comprised of a northern section of MF1 and a southern section of MF2 zone property. So the townhouses came through and the question was raised in earnest about the fact that they were using service drives throughout the project to provide not only parking access, but just full site circulation, which did tie into a public street as code requires. And the disposition of decision makers expressed to staff was that they would prefer not to have that arrangement in the future. And except for perhaps apartments that could have still parking and service drive, et cetera, arranged for them, but they'd still have to have, as this code requires, same with townhouses, public street frontage, ideally, or approved private street, I suppose. But in any event, a street. So you'll see that represented in the table changes there. And this, as I understand it, falls in line with, so far, some of the decision makers expressed disposition. They seem to be okay with it. So we present it to you to try and adjust what happens in the future with such buildings and their access and frontage.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, so this would essentially would require that the front of the townhomes have to front onto a public street, and their lot width would have to be measured from that, along that frontage, and not have an open parking area for both front and back. That's just public.
Right.
Well, obviously it's still public, but the front door access has to be a public road.
And Chair and Commissioner Hess, that's by and large the case. They could still have, obviously, access with their side yards, et cetera, but the width is not prescribed for frontage in this. But you're gonna have to have sufficient width to meet setbacks and provide for the building plan that you're proposing, as we do now. You know, whether it's 4 units of X dimension, but at least, say it's the front, some portion of that property is gonna have to be along, a street. And I would expect that the majority of the time, at least with townhouses anyway, you're gonna have, yes, the front, or maybe a rear, fronting that street, because that's your narrowest dimension for one thing. So it'll give more economy.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, this item is a public hearing, so at 7:56 PM, we'll open the public hearing. Has anyone received any communication on this item? Anyone here like to address us on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:57 PM. Okay, thoughts, comments?
I'm pretty flexible on it. I don't really have a strong opinion on this one.
Yeah, I like it. I think it clarifies and helps with a lot of that stuff, so I'm okay with it. Okay, if there's no comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we provide a positive recommendation for item 7G to the city council.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Fox, seconded by Commissioner Whiting to forward a positive recommendation to City Council for item 7G. Any need to clarify? Okay, we will start the vote with Commissioner Whiting.
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. Commissioner Strong?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you. That concludes our action advisory items. We do have a discussion item or two, so we'll turn the time back to Rob for that one.
Bring up the screen. See if the PowerPoint I've got up is populate. So I sent you today, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, a copy, well, a forwarded version of an email I received purposely because I'd asked for it from, oh, sorry, I gotta do all this login stuff, but I can't do it with this plugged in. Hang on. Come on. Because I wanted to keep it in the forefront, of my mind and make sure it got placed on an agenda for consideration. Okay, I'm going to plug this back in now. Sorry, but when I have this cable plugged in for used to tie the computer laptop to the screen, my screen goes black, so I can't do anything with it. You'll see now on your screens the question at hand, which ties to that email, obviously. And I'm sorry, in the second paragraph, I should have said property owners, not lines.
So this, right now, we're saying if you live in the ranches along, and that's the fencing you have to maintain.
Yeah, and I want to go outboard of the ranches because it has its own special, but yes, control. This is in the Porter's Crossing B plat area. So south side of Pony, east of Ranches Parkway area, but yet another, Parkway right of way. I've pointed to the property in question, number 208, owned by the people that sent this email in to us. This, in simple form, what they want to do is take their Monterey gray colored wooden fence that's in amongst a series of other wooden fences of like construction and color and replace it with a same colored but different material, in their case, Simtac or something else, fence, because they don't want the maintenance of the wooden fence. And the owner had discussed previously with Dave in our office, and I think Marcus, this question, and the response was, well, given code right now, you need to either replace with the like fence that's in there, and we'll call it grandfathered, since it fronts along or lines along a parkway, or you put in a wall. But they'd be the only one with a wall if they did that, and those are awfully expensive compared to a wooden fence. So they're begging the question, well, can we have an exception? The answer was probably not. We have to amend our code, but let's explore the question with Commission and Council again, because we used to have an exception allowance. It was mainly used by developers putting in alternative fencing types, and how much it was always correctly used, I don't know. But that exception went away about a year ago with a major fencing code amendment. And the question was raised at that time by one of the counselors and myself, both, to the other sitting members of the council, are you sure you want to do away with this exception? And they were shown a series of different places by pictures. In the city, we had different fencing types lining the road. One side you might have wooden fencing, another vinyl, or here you might have a wall, and here Simtac. And so I understand they're trying to get consistency, but how does that work with somebody, any of us, that had property and we want to do just what that guy wants to do, and we're saying, look at this wooden fencing. Now take ranches as an example, or other areas where you have such, and you see it in various forms of condition, somewhat dilapidated in a lot of cases. I understand the sentiment of wanting to replace it with something better, as long as we keep the color and the height the same. But the vinyl fences don't come with trellis work on them. Well, they do, probably, actually. But it's uncommon, and even when they have some kind of pattern on them, they still are gonna look different than the wooden fences next to them somewhat if you study it and just drive by, and it kind of becomes part of the background scenery. So my question to you is, what do you think about it, providing some kind of exception like I've been talking on about?
I would suggest in this context, no, because you've got such a main corridor that has the same look everywhere,
And I want to show you that.
even though logically, I wouldn't disagree with the property wanting to do that, but just in the context of where it sits, like if it was in context of, if within your development along a collector road, it needs to be consistent. I don't know if that, anyway.
And that makes sense, and it's not, all fencing is not like what we're seeing in this picture, which is pointing obviously their fence, that arrow. But if you look up and down that parkway, not only that little segment I clipped there off of Google, but the other side of the road and farther beyond them to the north and south on the same side of the road, it's that same style fencing. So if it were allowed at all, I think that's a great disposition. Unless we want to go to a different kind of fencing altogether, then let's keep what's there in the context of what's placed up and down that way. Some places are, but then on the other hand, we have places where they have vinyl fencing in along a right of way that should have different kind. People just put it in. Do we want to make that be a forced upgrade?
Well, I agree with Commissioner Hess, but if there's already, let's say it was, I don't agree with the forced upgrade necessarily. I mean, I agree with just sort of the ubiquitous, like, uniform style. I mean, I agree with that, and I don't think it would be good to have mismatched fencing. We just wouldn't have a good reflection on the community.
So no patchwork.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reality is they're gonna drive down my neighborhood on Pony Express Parkway. I live in Eagle Park, and all those fences are different, which is different, of course, that was built as part of a separate approach in the ranches, which had a different guideline at the start. But if you drive down my neighborhood, or drive up Pony Express Parkway just over here, it's wood fence, vinyl fence, wood fence, wood vinyl fence, but it's a different context. So in the context of their development, no, is what my recommendation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would stand out way too much. But if it's patchwork throughout a neighborhood, like you're saying, that's the characteristic of the neighborhood, but here, it's all uniform, so it'd look weird to have just one.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I might forward at some juncture soon a code amendment draft that has an exception opportunity if council responds kind of like you have, that it's entertainable maybe, but it's got to be in keeping with what's already in that same vicinity and up and down the same fence line corridor, et cetera, et cetera. Otherwise, it's a no-go. Is that reasonable, or should I just not even allow the opportunity?
I think a no-go.
Okay. Yeah, and I promised I would put this forward as a question to you, so.
I agree. I think it's great, and I love these contexts where it's just a collaborative discussion. I think it's great to bring up these questions.
So is that the majority consensus?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then we won't see a code amendment, and that's all.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Anything else for our discussion? Looks like, so our next meeting will be on July 8th, and then we'll work on doing our code amendments during the work session, unless Brandon and staff have something else to fill that time.
Yes, we actually do. Dave is bringing back just pulling this up to make doubly sure, but I believe, it's in front, there it is. It is, that day we are bringing back the architectural standards. So we might be able to talk about, well, we could keep them on there. We could keep both on there, but the architectural, VCBO is coming to talk about architectural standards with you guys, so.
And we'll probably want to give them enough time as they need. It's a big, big thing, so.
We could add the other on there, because she may not take an hour. That way, if there is time, we can still do it if, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. You guys want to add it on there, just to have stuff ready? Or do you guys want to postpone 2 more weeks?
Or maybe we just keep it on there and then we can, maybe we just keep it on, if we have some time, we can kind of prioritize kind of the next step, you know, kind of catch up where we were at and where we want to go with a bigger discussion.
Yeah, I like that. Work for everybody? Okay, again, as mentioned, our next meeting will be on July 8th. Does anyone know if they'll be out of town? And then Heather, is this the last time we get you here?
Yes, I might pop up from time to time because I'm technically not moving until the end of July, 1st of August. So I will be around, but maybe not behind the seat.
Well, if this is the last time, thank you for all you've done. You've been great. Appreciate all your hard work. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a final motion.
I motion we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Whiting, second by Commissioner Strong to adjourn. We'll just do a voice call vote. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's 5-0 adjourned. Thank you.